everybody, we're here with our partners at WildWatch. I'm Chuck with Midmet Parks. I want to say thanks to everybody for recreating responsibly. Here at Sunrise Beach, just reminding people that beach access is open right now. It's a great place to recreate in solitary recreation or with your family, and to remember to stay safe and stay 6 feet apart. So visit the beaches at your leisure. Just remember, we're always happy to help, and feel free to visit midmetparks.org for questions. So without further ado, I will turn it over to our friends at WildWatch.
Woohoo! Thank you, Chuck. All right, we have a gorgeous day here out at Sunrise Beach Park. It is very windy, so I do apologize if you're hearing a little bit of wind noise there. There's not a whole lot I can do short of blocking the entire microphone, which would mean you wouldn't hear us at all. So we're gonna start off by kind of exploring, walking down the park. So Stina, let's see what we can find. We have not scoped out the beach yet. We've been dealing with some technical difficulties of what we can do to mitigate this sound. So I hope that's coming through for us. As always, we would love to hear where you are watching from. We'd love to see comments from those of you who are watching. Go ahead and say maybe your ages and where you're viewing this from. We are in the southern part of the also known as Puget Sound, and this is an area right here at Sunrise Beach where we get a lot of current. So because of that, we see some quite interesting creatures, and low tide is right about now-ish. So we're gonna make our way down to the lowest part of the shore and see if we can see anything a little bit interesting. Hi Kirby, hi Tina. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, Tina already found something interesting. Let's check it out.
Definitely a species of star we don't see very often. It's a little blood star. It's looking a little dry and crusty. It's a pretty rough life living in the intertidal zone.
Hi Jesse, thanks for tuning in.
Actually,
Yeah, let's do a little rescue mission, Stina. So because Stina and I are so familiar with these sea creatures, we can confidently assess their status. And that's a little blood star, one of the common eelgrass animals that we see on our beaches. We're getting down to the heights here. I'll try to block the wind a little bit with my body here. So Stina's showing off this blood star. I wouldn't be surprised to see blood stars in this eelgrass habitat. This is really healthy and a good sign when we see lots of good eelgrass. In amongst the eelgrass, there's usually lots of signs of animal life. So we might see some shells, we might see some small creatures, more mobile things like crabs can be found in there. Sometimes we even see slugs, different types of nudibranchs and sea slugs. So, oh, I just lost my hat, but I caught it. Oh yeah, check it out. Stina's pointing out these snails here. These are frilled dogwinkles, lots of them on this rock. And whenever you see animals grouping together when they're not typically grouped together, it's usually in a mating behavior. So these snails are all getting ready to lay their eggs. And sometimes we can even find the eggs. So we'll keep our eyes peeled. The eggs of this species look like the kind of grains of rice that are standing on end. That's how, kind of the best way to describe them. All right, so let's walk this way, Stina, and see what else we can see. Oh, more dogwinkles. Kind of every rock here is gonna have some of these really nice big snails. Oh yeah, look at all these snails. This is like so many snails. And more and more and more. Goodness, we've got lots of snails. Oh yeah, look at these.
Nice variation of color.
So really beautiful snails here. So a lot of people grew up calling any small beach snails periwinkles, and this is a species that gets much larger than the small snails we think of as periwinkles. Here in the Pacific Northwest, the most common snail we would call a periwinkle would be a checker periwinkle. They're really tiny, about the size of your pinky fingernail.
I just noticed
I just noticed something. You can't even tell that this is a thing. You're thinking, I'm just looking at nothing here. We've got a chitin. He's really stuck down on there, and he's got a lot of things growing on him, so he's fairly well camouflaged. But that oval shape that I can see was kind of sticking out from the rock indicates a chitin.
Alright, so I noticed we have this red rock crab here, and then a little further over, it looks like there's been a rock that's flipped. I'm guessing this little crab has crawled from underneath that rock, and unfortunately, someone didn't remember to flip that rock back into place. So I'm a little worried about this red rock crab drying out. So we're gonna shift it back to the rock that I think it came from, and we're gonna put that rock back how it was found. I could tell by the scar in the sand over here.
There we go. Yeah.
Probably flipped over. And oh look, there's even another.
Ooh, there's even another crab hiding out.
So we want to flip those rocks.
A feisty crab.
Yeah, we want to flip the rocks very carefully because I don't want to crush these creatures.
Here.
Yeah, we're gonna say hi to these guys, and then we'll put this rock back how we found it. See, there's our wet side. Kind of cool to see these red rock crabs. They have the classic black pincher tips. You can see that this one's a male based on that thin, pointy belly flap that doesn't extend over to the legs. Females will have a much wider, big belly flap to hold the eggs. So, kind of a cute little specimen here. And we'll put them back in the shade.
Perfect. All right, so let's walk along. We'll go a little closer to the shore, although then we're dealing with the wave noise as well. It may be nice and sunny here, but it's definitely windy. I think the wind is what's blown all of those clouds away. All right, so looking at I kind of like to walk the edges of the grass beds, and here's a cool find. This is probably the most numerous question I get asked on the beach are, what are those weird sandy plungers? What are those rubbery gaskets down there? And these are the eggs of a moon snail. We might get lucky and find a moon snail today, although the surf is really stirring up the water, making it sandy and kind of brownish waves. Hard to see through. But we might get lucky and come across one. We'll keep our eyes peeled. But this is sand and mucus that's been extruded by the snails, and then they leave these on the beach, and the eggs are in a little layer right in the center of that. Hard to see, but still really, really interesting. And it's a sure sign of spring when we start to see those moon snails' eggs washing up on our beaches. All right, we're getting into a good patch of some really interesting looking algae here. This is some beautiful Turkish towel, which is a really bumpy red algae. It's very springy and elastic. There's also what are called sea noodles or red spaghetti type algae. I think I probably would try it if you put some tomato sauce on there. And then there's some filamentous algae that are washing up here too. We'll be filming this week a video about seaweeds and the different ways that you can use seaweeds as art, which is always kind of fun and exciting. Oh, here's another sand collar. Ooh, and check out right next to it, there is a little tiny green amphipod, a little creature that is a crustacean, so they have a hard outer shell that's jointed so that they can move and swim pretty quickly through the water. This is a favorite food item, and they're fairly common in the eelgrass, and they're this bright green color so that they can blend in with that eelgrass habitat. So you can see him kind of scooching along. He's not very at home on the sand. He'd much rather be in the water. He doesn't have too long to wait though. He's at tidal height, so the tide will be returning soon. Well, Stina's got a couple of bits of trash. That's our least favorite thing to find at the beach.
If I needed to cool off, I'd get some evaporative cooling effects. from that nice slime that's inside these.
Nice.
I like to only pop the ones that I find that are unattached, because it's going to become someone's lunch at some point. But if they're attached to the rock, it's better to not squish the goo out of them.
Yeah, there's a reason why the seaweed has it, and it's probably not to give you comfort. But if you find one washed up, it's all right to pop them. They won't reattach, but they will live until they get eaten. Now here's a really nice mature piece of this Turkish towel algae. This really big textured algae. There goes my hat. Just how windy it is out here. Oh wait, but no, just kidding.
Of a pretty cool creature that we don't get to see too often intertidally. This is the carapace of the large crab. The large one. You can just describe them.
I noticed something interesting up here, which if seeing a bunch of small holes makes you squeamish at all, you might not enjoy this next view. People who look at things like this and feel uncomfortable might be sufferers of trypnophobia, which is kind of a discomfort at small holes. These are all aggregating anemones, and each little hole is one animal. And they live together in these big aggregations, hence the name. And they'll come out when the tide returns and use their tentacles to grab different types of plankton in the water. Those eelgrass beds down below are just a breeding ground for tons and tons of small little animals that then these anemones take advantage of and eat them. Ooh, check it out. We got a little aerial visitor taking advantage of the strong winds. This is some kind of gull. It's pretty difficult to tell. A glaucous windmill, but really it's tricky to tell from under. We're nearing about the boundary of the park on this side. Oh, but Stina, my favorite kelp. This is my favorite algae. It's called red eyelet silk or red eyelet kelp. And it's got these holes in it. And it's fairly common in areas where there's lots and lots of current. So those holes allow the water to travel through this delicate algae without breaking it apart, which is kind of neat. This one right here is another favorite. This is iridescent kelp. And this is a very young piece of kelp. It hasn't really matured yet. This is why it's still see-through. But this will develop a really pretty blue iridescent shine to it.
These ones are nice. You can really see how the girdle kind of comes up between those 8 plates of that limpet that can fit perfectly and really just suck onto that rock. So kind of a fun find there.
Yeah, really good find. Good eyes, Stina. All right, we're gonna walk into the wind a little bit and see if we can't discover. Oh, here's that cool creature. We got another one who's getting a little bit dried out. We got a leather star here, a species really common in the low intertidal zone, especially since sea started wasting in the past 5 to 7 years. This is a species that seems fairly unaffected by the wasting and is so this one is looking a little bit dried out, no doubt from the wind and the sunshine. Stina found my favorite crab. have found an unstuck chitin. Okay, this is a really rare thing to come across.
To see this, because you mentioned how the chitins are so good. An expert like that.
Got it.
They're so good at sticking to that rock that you don't normally get to see the underside, where they have that slimy suction cup foot. The mouth is going to be over here with the radula that scrapes away at the algae. So really kind of cool to see the underside of a chitin here.
Nice. Macy is asking it, do we help the sea stars that are drying out? And yes, typically if we notice an animal is in really in severe distress, we will step in. But because the shore is, we're right at the low tide height, and in just a matter of minutes, those sea stars right at the edge are going to be, what are you finding?
I'm noticing
gills.
The way the foot has moved, it's letting us see the gills of the chitin. Those little ribbed lines along from top to bottom.
Nice. Good find.
Cool to see. But yeah, definitely, I'm not just gonna let this one sit in the sun. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
go ahead
try
and stick him
it
back
on
to
the
a rock. There's another chitin right next to him on this same rock. So this is a good sign that this is good habitat for them. Nice. All right. There we go. I'm gonna just do this without my hat because it's fallen off several times. All right, we're gonna hustle while we're walking into the wind so that we can try and create a wind block and kind of come backwards a little bit on this beach. Gorgeous, gorgeous day. Maybe pop in the comments where you're watching from and what the weather's like where you are. It's always kind of fun for us to see what all the visitors to our live videos, what things are like in their lives. There's a lot of woody debris here on this beach because the current really rips through here. It brings all kinds of driftwood, branches. I keep getting thrown off by the little tiny seed cones, reddish guys. Normally my brain is trained to kind of pick up on what colors are out of place, and that red definitely stands out to me. Okay, here's again, more snails on the rock. More of those dogwinkle snails are found here, but I'm noticing this really gelatinous kind of blobby thing. Those are the eggs of the barnacle-eating nudibranch, and I wonder if I carefully kind of move some of this filamentous algae out of the way, if I would be able to find some of those guys to show you. You got one? Stina's. Oh yeah, here we go.
And another one over here.
Yeah, so that little slimy brown ball is the barnacle-eating nudibranch. They're one of the smaller sea slug species that we have here. And like the name says, they love to feast on these barnacles. The majority of barnacles on this rock are eaten. You can see these empty holes here. If there's no trap doors inside, there's nobody home. And they're during the springtime, they're mating and laying eggs just like all the other animals are. And so we see these egg ribbons kind of all over the place. This is a nice healthy patch there. So that'll be the next generation of barnacle eating sea slugs. Really, really nice to see. Alright, let's see what else we can come across. Oh, here's a cool find. Now this looks like a dead crab. But there's a couple of ways that I know it's not a dead crab. I'm gonna use my body to block the sound a little bit. The first way that I look at it is I notice it looks a little kind of translucent in its shell. It doesn't look like there's anybody on the inside of that. And there's not. This is a molt. So I can kind of pry up gently on this top carapace here. And you can look and see that there's nobody home inside there. And this is from a juvenile graceful crab. And when he left this shell, he took everything with him. So there's the very tips of the pinchers all the way down to the tiniest bits of their antennas, their eye stalks, everything comes out. And then they need to grow a new shell, so they'll be soft for a couple of days. Here's another molt of one of those helmet crabs. The other way that I know that this is not a dead crab on the beach is it does not smell. A dead crab will stink to high heavens, but a molt won't. So that's your first clue. If you don't want to chance touching it, you just give it a sniff. comment. We get asked lots of questions in the springtime. How come there's so many dead crabs at the beach? Well, lots of them are just molts, which means there's lots of live crabs on the beach. Oh, that wind is so strong. It's blowing us over down here.
For as fun as it was in the parking lot, I'm sure glad I put my boots on because it's chilly.
Yeah, that's a good reminder when you're headed to the beach to be prepared for kind of all conditions. Quite often we get down to the shore and it's a lot colder than it is up at your car. It's nice to be prepared to make sure you have sunscreen, boots. You notice all of us are wearing closed-toed boots are the best. A closed-toed water shoe would also be appropriate, but whew, this water is pretty chilly. It's about 45 to 55 degrees. And so, see a bit, a tiny guy. Check there, little tiny leather snare. Thriving in this eelgrass bed. It's really perfect habitat for this little animal, and it's adorable. Don't put it on your nose, Tina. We do a one-finger touch, remember? Oh, and he's even sticking to me with his little tiny 2 feet. Probably pretty hard to see because he's just so tiny. So we'll tuck him back in. I default to he's. I don't know why. Maybe it's a she. It's very colorful. Very beautiful. Well, boys can be beautiful too, I suppose. Lots of this red algae here. Really pretty filamentous red. Lots of animals eat the red, green, and brown algae that we find on our shores. Ooh, here's a horse clam shell. One of the largest shells that we see on our beaches comes from a clam called the horse clam. Probably the biggest shell we ever see is from a geoduck. And you can tell the difference because a geoduck's kind of shell opening, which would be this right here, their shells are very kind of rectangular in shape. This one's very kind of oblong. That's a good way to tell the difference. If I had a geoduck, I could show you one, but they really like to be in deeper water. So we would need maybe a -3 or a -4 foot tide to see some geoducks. All right, friends, I think we're gonna wrap it up now. We're super grateful for all of you for tuning in. We'll be doing some more videos coming up this week, taking advantage of the nice low tides. We'll be filming some training materials and producing some other videos for a later release. So we thank you for tuning in. As always, give us a like and a share. Be sure to tell your friends all about Harbor WildWatch. We love the love that you all have been showing us over the past couple of weeks. We're especially grateful for everyone who donated to Harbor WildWatch through the Give Big campaign yesterday. Again, if you want to post in the comments where you're watching from, we'd love to see that. And of course, a huge thank you to Penn Met Parks for giving us access to their beaches today. Chuck, any last things you want to say?
Have fun, stay safe.